One is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Looking Up, no other than Miss Katherine Klimitas. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Katherine. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. My name is Catherine. I live just outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. I am 36. I'm an artist and a graphic designer. I work from home, so I mostly freelance, and I have my own art and design business. One thing that's a little different about me is that I have a genetic bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is basically two long words that means that my bones break easily and they grow abnormally. So I'm actually only 2 foot 7 inches tall, and I use an electric wheelchair to get around. I have an aide that helps me do things, and they're with me most of the day. So I can't do things like cook or transfer from my chair to the toilet and things like that. Um, so they're with me a lot, and I got very into art as a child because it was something I could actually do. Um, I had lots of friends that were able-bodied, and they would go and play soccer and baseball, and when they were out doing that, I couldn't really do that. So my mom got me really into art, and she got me my first watercolor set when I was 5, and kind of from there it just took off. And so I went to grade school, high school, graduated from college. I graduated with a BA in graphic design, and so today I do a little bit of, well, half my business is painting and half my business is design. So kind of half and half.
Yes, Miss Katherine Klimitas. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And let's talk about your book, Looking Up. What
Hmm.
did rock bottom look like for you, and what forced you to start looking up?
Well, I mean, I did I this book started as my senior project for college, my senior thesis, and I wouldn't say it comes from rock bottom exactly. It really just comes from my life in general. Uh, it's it's about me, so it's basically my autobiography. It's got a lot of images in it that I took. It's about the disease I have. It's about how I deal with it and what's happened to me because of it. And it's a coffee table book, because I think a lot of people write autobiographies that are, this thick, and it gets boring after a while, right? Like, we don't want to read super long autobiographies all the time. So I did this as my senior thesis. And then after college, I had a publisher actually pick it up. So, that's kind of where it stemmed from. But our professors gave us the challenge and said, we want you to do a project only you can do. And so this project was about showing my perspective in a visual and written way. So that was basically, and I am literally looking up all the time. Like, literal, I mean, I'm 2 foot 7. That's all there is to do. I am looking up all the time, literally and figuratively.
Miss Catherine, again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. What is small moment or realization first made you believe change was possible?
Uh, well, I mean, it was really exciting after college, after we finished our project, for a publisher to actually be interested in it. Because, I think that when you're writing about yourself or you're sharing about yourself, it's not interesting to you. You know, like, I always have this problem when I write my blogs. I'm like, that's not interesting to me. Like, what did people want to hear? Because I live this life, right? Like, this is normal for me. Um, but, you know, it was exciting that somebody actually wanted to hear my story enough that they would invest in it and publish it, which was pretty cool.
We are, Miss Catherine, interested to hear your story to the world and share it and be inspired. While looking up, is this literal practice, a metaphor, or both?
Oh, definitely both. I mean, as I said, I am 2'7", so I look up literally a lot. And then figuratively, I mean, uh, I try to keep a positive attitude. It doesn't always work, of course, because nobody can stay positive all of the time. But I try to, even when I hurt really badly or something has happened or whatever, um, negativity doesn't really get you anywhere, and it's also
Yes.
very boring. So, so I've tried
True.
really hard not to do that.
Yes, truly boring, people. And let it go. How did you shift your mindset from why me to what now during your darkest times?
Um, Funnily enough, those times probably came when I was a child, because it's really hard as a child to watch your friends do things that you can't do. I mean, I think as an adult, it's a little easier because you understand more, you know.
Yes.
But as a child, it's really hard, and so that is part of why I got into art, is because, I'd say, why me? But then my mom would be like, well, you can't go do this, but you can do this instead. You can paint, or she got me into all kinds of art classes where I learned sculpture and glass blowing and all kinds of different media. And so um, my creative brain was constantly going, and that helped a whole lot. Um, Also, my mother never let me feel sorry for myself, so that really helped a lot too.
Yes, it helps a lot for sure. What does this practice physically, emotionally, or spiritually involve for you?
uh, I mean, physically, it just involves getting out of bed every day, right? I mean, just getting up and showing up. Um, I I try really hard to say, well, if if I didn't do everything I wanted to do, at least I did something, right? So I don't believe that you should, just because one thing goes wrong doesn't mean you should just sit there and wallow in it, right? I mean, you might not be able to complete the task you want to complete, but there's probably something else you can do instead. Because that's kind of how my life has always been. It's okay, well, I can't do this, but maybe I can do something else. And so I think just mentally, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to just do the best I can today. And I think that if you do that, then you actually get somewhere.
Definitely. Miss Catherine, what makes your story relatable to readers facing completely different challenges?
Well, everybody has challenges, right? Everybody faces something. I have this physical one, but some people face drug addiction. Some people have financial stress. Some people take care of their sick family members. Some people lose all their possessions in a natural disaster. Um, Everybody has something. And so, kind of the point of this book is that's okay. Everybody has something, and that something is relative to that person. And as long as you're trying, like I said, you're showing up and you're trying to move forward, that's okay. Um, and I think the other thing is, if, like, I'm lucky because I found art. That's my
Yes.
thing. That's what I always turn to when something has gone wrong, right? Um I I call it my something. So, like, I think that if you find your something, you find your purpose, or well, however you want to say that in life, then it helps you to move past your challenges.
Miss Catherine, how do you acknowledge pain while still motivating readers to rise above it?
Well, for me, I don't know a life without pain. So I
Yes.
don't I don't know a day without pain. I have no idea what that feels like. I hurt pretty much, I mean, not always to an excruciating level, of course, but like something hurts on me most of the time. Um, so for me, it's just a natural instinct to manage it. That's not, um, it's normal for me. Um, and I think that managing pain is very much a mindset. I have a friend who went through some really bad lockjaw issues. It's a long story, but basically, she went through some really bad few months where her jaw would just lock up and she would be in so much pain that sometimes she would pass out. And, one night I told her, I'm like, look, she said, how do you do this? Like, how do you deal with this? And I said, honestly, the way I do it in my head is you just accept that it's there and then work with it. So once you stop fighting that it's there, you figure out a way to manage it. And that's kind of how I've always done it.
What was the hardest part of your story to write, and why was it essential to include?
What's the hardest part of my story to write? Um, I think I'm not gonna say it was the hard, like just overall.
Yes.
Sometimes when you're writing about somebody, so like myself, other people are in the book, right? There's other characters in play. And sometimes you and those other characters remember things differently. And so it's very hard sometimes to write and make sure you're not offending anybody. So that was definitely a challenge. Um, I don't know that any of it was particularly difficult to write because I'm just not I'm not a secretive person. Like I'm a pretty what you see is what you get. So I don't mind sharing things. But there were certain things like, that goes through my head, like, oh, my mom wouldn't want me to share that. Or my dad wouldn't want me to share that. Or yeah, I better not talk about her like that. You know. Um so I think that's a little bit of a challenge anytime you write about real people.
Miss Catherine, as an artist, designer, and public speaker, what are your short term and long term goals?
Hmm. Well, my short-term goals are always just to make my bills. honestly, honestly, that's like an ongoing short-term goal. Um, and sometimes I meet it, and sometimes I don't. Um, but I always want to move forward with my art. I didn't say this earlier, but I grew up with two parents who are veterinarians. And so I have been around animals my entire life, which I'm actually very surprised my dogs are being quiet right now. But, yeah, so we've always had pets, and I started painting, like seriously painting, in my parents' office because I was bored. I get bored easily. I was bored, and I would sit in the waiting room with my paints and just paint whoever was there, whatever dog or cat or whatever was there. And I mean, I was like 9 or 10. I wasn't very good, but the clients loved it. And so eventually they started paying me to do it. Just like I didn't ask, they just started paying me to do it. And, when you're 12 years old and somebody says, hey, I'll give you $40 if you paint my dog, I mean, that's pretty cool, right? And
Yes.
so yeah, so I continue to do that, and I do a lot of pet portraits still. They're much better than they were when I was 12 years old. But and I charge more than $40. Just FYI. But but yeah, I sometimes I feel like I get a little stuck because the pet portraits are what I live on money wise. It makes me money. And so when you're doing those over and over and over again in the same style, in the same sizes, in the same way, I mean, yes, they're different dogs and different cats, but I mean, I say this all the time, like dogs and cats are black, brown, and white. So like, I mean, it's a lot of different colors of black, brown, and white, but that's it. Like there's nothing beyond that. You don't get to add in mixed media. You don't add in, iridescence. You don't add in bright blue. I mean, it's just black, brown, and white. So it gets a little boring, and sometimes I feel like I plateau a little bit, and I don't give myself time outside of my job art to do like my creative art. But I'm trying to rework my schedule so that I give myself more time for that. So that would be a long term goal for sure.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Catherine, and looking forward for more and more success. What would be your piece of advice for those people who want to be artists, want to be a designer, and a public speaker like you?
I would tell them to just try things and to not be afraid to fail and to just learn from failure because you're going to. Like if you're doing it right, you're going to fail. You're going to spend money that does not get you anywhere. Um, you're going to sign up for something that does not get you anywhere. But then you'll spend money that does get you somewhere, and you'll learn, and you'll sign up for that meeting that changes the way you run your business. Or you'll learn something new at a conference, or you'll something will happen and it will get better as long as you just keep showing up and you keep trying. I can't even tell you how many times, somebody has pitched me a idea like, oh, I'm going to turn you into the best public speaker in the world. And oh, just give me $800. Okay. And I mean, I haven't seen the man in 5 years. Like it, it doesn't always work out.
Yes.
But and that's okay because that's how you learn.
Yes, don't afraid to commit mistake and failure,
Yeah.
people, because you will learn from them. You will learn from it. And Miss Catherine, thank you for your advice. And
Mhm.
what or can you recommend a book that influenced your journey?
Hmm. Can I recommend a book that influenced my journey?
Yes. Do you have
Hmm.
one?
That's a hard question. Um, I have a few that I could. So I love live music. I love
Yes.
live music. That's because art kind of became my job, so it's no longer really my hobby. So live music is very much my hobby. And I actually got to work with Rod Stewart for a little while, which was very cool. It was a very cool experience. Um, but I read his autobiography, and it was really interesting because I think sometimes we see these celebrities and we say, oh well, they're famous. They had everything handed to them. They don't have to work that hard. But somebody like Rod Stewart, who was just working as hard as he possibly could. He had this dream of becoming a musician. His dad wanted him to be a soccer player. And then he wasn't very good at it, so he couldn't be. So he fell back on music, which is what he loved anyway. And he just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And at some point, he had a record, um, and Maggie May, which is one of his main songs, was on the B side. And some DJ somewhere just put it on accidentally, I think, to the B side of the record, and um, he blew up like overnight. And so when you hear stories like that, it's like, okay, if I just keep working, something like that's gonna happen. Something, it can happen. Like, it's not impossible. Um, so I think, I don't know, I thought that was kind of inspiring, and I also, the fact that I've met him and he's still very down to earth, and he's still a nice guy, even though he's a superstar. Is a really nice thing. Um,
Really nice. Yes.
yeah, I also read this book recently, actually, called Educated. I don't know if anybody's read that out there, but it's about a girl who, and it's historical fiction, I believe, but it's about a girl who was in an off the grid family, like her parents believed in living off the grid, and which meant she didn't go to school. She didn't. I mean, she basically had to make a life for herself and figure out how to get out of the cycle that her family was in. And it is a very interesting book. Um, I would definitely recommend that one. Um, and then I just love Harry Potter. And no real reason. I love Harry Potter, so I'm just gonna say that too.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much for your recommendation,
Yeah.
Miss Catherine. And if you could send one message to yourself at the start of this journey, what would it be?
I don't know. I think I would just tell myself to keep going, because eventually it does get better. I mean, look, I've had this physical issue, but I've also, um, I mean, my dad passed away when I was 23, and he was sick for most of my life. We lost all of our belongings in Hurricane Katrina. So I mean, like, I've had other things, and sometimes it feels like what's the point, right? I mean, why? But there is a point, and I have a pretty decent life, and most days I like it. So, I think that's all you can really ask for.
Definitely. So, how has sharing your story impacted your own healing or relationships?
I think it's always good when you share a challenge or you share a story and somebody else says, "Oh, yeah, I relate to that," or "I get that. I was there. Like, I understand that." Um, it just makes you feel kind of validated, because I think sometimes you feel like, am I just being ridiculous, or am I just being whiny, or am I just, should I be doing better? Um, and it's nice when somebody else says, no, you're doing just fine. I've been there too, and it's really hard, you know? Um, so yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Miss Catherine, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in its fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in a third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Catherine, what's the one shift you want readers to embody long after closing your book?
Uh, just to keep going, and that if I can do it, you can do it. So, yeah, just keep going.
Definitely. Keep going, people. Keep going and believe in yourself. Miss Katherine Klimitas, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your business, or your advocacy to the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where they can buy
Oh,
your
where
book?
they can, I'm sorry, my website is kakartnola.com. I have an Etsy store, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Catherine Klimitas because if you support her more and more and more, empowering art to come, more and more empowering speaking to come, and of course, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Catherine, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mordecai people, see you soon.